problem is it has the opposite effect on his base. It doesn't make people reluctant. It makes people more convinced that there's a conspiracy against him. It makes people more convinced that there's corruption that's fighting against him.
I think, personally, that Trump was at his most vulnerable within the Republican primary at the very beginning. I thought for the first time to me, he seemed like he was very out of step with his own base. He's sitting there still bragging about Operation Warp Speed and how he saved hundreds of millions of lives by developing the vaccine. He was getting booed a few times in his own speeches. He just seemed kind of out of touch, and it seemed like, it seemed like the energy of his campaign wasn't 2016, which was Make America Great Again. This was like my vengeance tour. They screwed me. I lost, but I really won. I'm gonna come back and win again. And it seemed to me like that wasn't really connecting. And then, this is before DeSantis got in the race, but it was heavily speculated that he would be getting in the race. And, he was like this guy who has a very good record on COVID, at least compared to all the other governors, just about all the other governors. And there just seemed to me like there was an opening there. There was like a vulnerability. And then they raided his house in Mar-a-Lago. And I felt like that guaranteed Trump front run, like that guaranteed it for him, because as soon as they did that, it was like, oh, now it's like it's shifted right back to this, like, look what they're doing to your guy. They want to not give you the chance to vote for this guy. They're going to weaponize the justice system against this guy because you like him. They're not, and they're doing it to him because they want to do it to you. It kind of gave him like all this energy back. And so there's a real dynamic to that where his numbers go up every time a new indictment comes out.
Yeah.
People aren't buying into it because it's not like, look, it's just so obvious that it's politicized. The interesting thing, there's an interesting thing about the law. Like, people have this conception of what the law is, and then there's the reality of it. Like, people have this conception of, like, there's a rule written down on a piece of paper, and that's the rule. And if you break that rule, you broke the law. And if you don't break that rule, you didn't break the law. But that's not really how it works. It's like, in the same way, like down to the lowest level, if you get pulled over by a cop, there's times where like he could give you a ticket or he could let you off with a warning, And like sometimes it's just how that guy feels.
Right.
Maybe he knew you. Right. Maybe he stops, he goes, oh shit, Joe Rogan. I'll let you off with a warning. You know what I mean? Like there could be so many different factors. Well, like just for example, okay, so James Clapper, he was the director of national intelligence. It was basically the head of the shadow government. That's the highest position in the deep state. You're the CIA answers to you. You oversee the CIA and the NSA and the FBI and all this stuff. And he lied to Congress very blatantly. Like, no question about it. He was asked point blank, is the NSA involved in any bulk data collection on American citizens? Said, no, we're not doing that. Then Ed Snowden came out and exposed that he clearly was. And he was the DNI. Like, he knew this, okay? He lied to Congress. Why isn't he arrested for it? It's like, because there's no political will to arrest that guy. He's of the deep state. He's one of the top guys. He's not getting arrested. Now, Michael Cohen lied to Congress. He got a month wrong when he was talking about a deal that he was working on for Trump. He said it happened in June, but it was really in January or something like that. He got charged with that. And because they wanted to put pressure on him to get him to flip on Donald Trump, which he did. So it's not like there are crimes that are committed all the time. There's just no political will. There's no desire to arrest that person. And I think the thing that's wild about this with Trump is that if you think of all the crimes that presidents have committed, the idea that this is what one of them is actually going to go down for is insane. Like, Bush instituted torture. You know what I mean? Obama murdered American citizens without charges. These guys lied us into wars. By the way, every war is illegal. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution, and it says only Congress can declare war. The last declared war was World War II. Every war since then has been an illegal war. Anyone could be arrested for this at any time. The legal defense is that they're military actions, not wars. So that thing in Vietnam? It probably smelled like a war to you, but no, not a war. Korea wasn't a war. Iraq wasn't a war. Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Somalia, Yemen, none of those were wars. It's anyone, if there was any political will, any one of these presidents could be arrested for any number of crimes. And yet they're not. But yet Trump didn't give back the classified information quickly enough, even after they asked him. Oh, he's got to be indicted for that. Even though other presidents have done pretty much the same thing, no, he's got to be indicted for that.
What is the Georgia thing is interesting because he was going to have a press conference where he was going to reveal all of the information that proves that he was telling the truth about the Georgia election being rigged.
Yeah,
and then he didn't have the press conference.
Yes, well, this is a thing that I got to say is a kind of knock on Trump here that, this is a thing his lawyers, Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani, who just turned himself into custody today. But they would always say this after 2020. We have proof that millions of votes were stolen from Donald Trump and we'll be releasing this soon. And then it just never kind of comes. So I don't know what he thinks he's going to tell us about that. The issue with the thing in Georgia, where I will grant there's like a little bit of a gray area there. And I think that, look, there is a gray area there. It's kind of like when they impeached Trump over Ukraine. There was like a little bit of a gray area of like what exactly he did. It's just that when you look at things of all the crimes that presidents commit, the idea that you go after a president for this, it's so petty compared to these greater crimes. But like he called the Secretary of State in Georgia and was kind of like, I need you to find me these votes. But he was saying, he was like, look, there's been fraud. I know there's been fraud. You got to go look for